time on your Sunday to join us for this call. So this is going to be the first of a series of presentations about each of our different ministries. And the hope and intention behind it is just to kind of paint a little bit clearer of a picture of what each of us have been developing and working on. So I'm going to just share a little bit about young adult ministry. So, can you see this? Yeah? Okay, cool. So why young adult ministry? This is a department that started just a year ago now. And I think young adult ministry is really important. Our largest demographic right now in America peaks at 27 years old. And often, we grow up in our homes or our camps with parents and with a community. But then the transition of going off to college and moving out of home and beyond that into the work field, it's often harder to stay connected to our community and to our faith. And so I think without a place to support and to navigate that transition and continue to grow, sometimes, and I think we've all experienced that or witnessed it, kind of easier or challenging to kind of get a little bit disconnected. And even though this is the largest demographic, there hasn't been so much to really, kind of be put in place to support this. So I know I find it very valuable. I am a young adult and excited for what we've been developing and working on. So let me see, how do I go to the next slide? Okay, so I was recently with INSEPNIM and he shared this analogy. We were talking about Crane's Club and the young adult demographic. And he was sharing how, Mother is pouring so much into the youth these days, like pouring investment and love and heart into a bucket. But there's still a lot of holes in that bucket. And so our task as a ministry department and each of us in the specific areas that we're working on, I think, is how do we plug holes that do exist and how do we prevent new holes from being created so we can really create this vessel to nurture and to raise up our youth and this next generation. Really creating a culture where there's ownership over our lives of faith and we feel empowered to contribute to our local communities, bring our skills and our talents, and also support those who are coming after us. I think even reflecting on, Mother's 2020 vision and even this whole emphasis on tribal messiahship, and I think we really need our youth to be a part of that, not just for an older generation, but for our whole families to contribute. And so I see young adult ministry as a part of that, really creating and engaging and activating our young people to be a part of this community. So this last year, again, young adult ministry is like a year old. So I was looking back, I feel like this year has really been one of tilling the soil and maybe beginning to plant the seeds. And I know for me too, it's been a really big journey of faith for me to trust. When I started this year ago, I was like, what the hell am I doing? What am I getting myself into? But really looking back, amazed at what's unfolded and continuing to trust and see that as we take one step, God is really working, in small ways and in big ways to move things forward. So the mission of young adult ministry is to equip and empower young adult unificationists to take ownership to manifest God and true parents' love and truth in this world. So again, this is really an emphasis on ownership, not just to be receiving and to be fed faith, but to really take ownership over that. And I think young adult ministries focus on equipping, so giving the tools to do that and empowering our young adults to take ownership in their own lives of faith. A large part of that is being part of a larger vision and part of a larger community. And I really feel that if each of us takes ownership over that, then God will guide us into how we can uniquely manifest God and true parents' love and truth in this world. So far, young adult ministry has two main focuses. One is to create a network among all the different young adult ministry and efforts around the country. And two, to offer educational resources and opportunities for both those ministries in the local communities and then for young adults so far nationally. So first one, network, really creating a sense of teamwork and sharing best practices. So when I first started off this role, so I've done in the last year and a few months 2 tours, just kind of visiting different communities around the country, really feeling that an important part of developing this ministry was to get a sense of what's happening in our local communities, what people are looking for, what are the challenges, what does exist, and at what do our communities and our young adults look like. So that happened at the beginning of my work with young adult ministry, and then also again recently in this last fall, and really seeing the value of that, of having a chance to meet with the pastors, to meet with these young adult reps, and could really see the desire to want to create something in our communities, this sense of needing to, this sense of asking, what am I creating for the future generations? But then also the importance of creating a network and a sense of we're in this together. Because I think sometimes if you have the courage or you want to step up and to create something in your community, it's easy to get burned out if you don't feel like you're part of something bigger or there aren't resources and support. And recognizing that what you're facing in your local community is most likely something that other communities are also going through and wrestling with. So in addition, to be able to create a network and support, so Kayleigh has been doing youth pastor retreats for the last few years. And last August, we had our first youth and young adult leaders retreat. So again, that was a really great opportunity to connect to a bigger vision, to share best practices, to collaborate, make goals, and also, again, really feel connected to this larger family. I know for me personally, even just having all these incredible people come together, like I was really nervous going into the first retreat. Kayleigh can attest to it. I was like, are people even going to come? Do people even want to be a part of this? And just to see the people that came representing their community with this genuine desire to build something and to want to be a part of that, was really moving and really touching. And the last one that we did in January was even bigger, and we had CARP represented. So I think really cultivating this sense of identity and this sense of pride, and feeling like there are people who want to be a part of creating this together is really, really empowering. So that's been really powerful in creating this network. A lot of people had a chance to meet face to face and learn and inherit from each other. And off of that retreat, we started these monthly support calls, having one rep from every community coming, and we shared both best practices, things that we'd been doing, sharing ideas for things that had worked, but then we also brainstormed and tackled common challenges, stumbling blocks that we realized were shared by communities other than just our own, and exploring what we could do to better support each other and help each other. Also in the realm of network, we have a Facebook group for all the reps. This is a place where you can share announcements, share opportunities that are coming up, get some feedback if there's any questions. So far, we found it to be a simple and easy platform to use since most people have Facebook. We're also exploring other ways of doing that. So that's in terms of network, really creating that sense of identity and being part of something bigger. And then the second area that we've worked on developing is offering educational resources and opportunities. So on our website, yam.familyfed.org, together with the Chicago Young Adult Ministry, we began to develop what we call a discussion series. So oftentimes, young adults would come together, they'd have, so Chicago adopted a Trinity model, and so the young adults are coming together and they're busy, they're working, they're in school, and even just to come up with and find like things to read or things to discuss that had a theme and were relevant and kind of had an intention of we're here, and as a community by the end of the semester we want to touch on these topics. So we found that developing together with a few educators and aunties discussion series was really helpful, because it made planning a get-together, planning a discussion night, planning a Trinity meeting much easier. So far what's up here on the website are a few different themes And each one is broken down to either 4 or 8 or 12 sessions. So it can be used over the course of the month, over the course of a semester. And they focus on different themes. Again, we came up with some of the young adult ministries. And they're broken down. So if you click on, for example, value system, these are 4. Yeah.
Can you share screen and just, as you're talking about it, can you show the website?
Yeah.
Okay.
Instead of doing screenshots, you mean?
Unless you have screenshots. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You've been sharing. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
It's okay. So if you click here, like value system, so the 4 subtopics would come up: the original value, self-centered versus God-centered, life purpose, living for the sake of others. And then if you click on, for example, the second one, there's a short like points to ponder, so kind of like an internal guidance, focused on different principal topics or this particular theme, and again geared towards the young adult audience. And then there follows some discussion questions that you can use for the small group or as an individual, or if you're giving a talk to kind of a young adult service setting. And there's some quotes as well that are relevant or related to the theme. And I didn't do a screenshot, but there's also an application for the week. So some way that you can apply what you're doing. And we felt this was really valuable because you can focus again on a theme, and you have 4 different topics that kind of build on each other and are connected to each other. So that's something we've begun to develop. We want to add more to, based on the different types of topics and themes that young adults would like to explore more. So we've also then developed workshops and retreats. Some are local. Some have kind of been focused on supporting specific young adult ministries. Like I know I went out to Seattle to host a young adult retreat to get something started in their community. So weekend retreat, working with the local young adults to organize logistics and then coming to help and support with programming. Also in Chicago, helped and connected with their young adults there. So that was sort of more locally focused. And then we did larger national things like the Hyojung workshop, connecting both youth and young adults. And this winter, partnering with GPA and also local Maryland community to offer, and at IPEC to offer DP kind of 1-week workshops. And again, I think for many young adults, this is like the first workshop they've been to since, you were allowed to go and attend camp as a participant. And so to kind of come back to this setting in the midst of school and work, to connect with peers, to explore your faith, and to kind of come back to the basics, for many was really, really empowering. And again, to feel the sense of affirmation that I am part of a larger community, and there are other young adults who are navigating and exploring and really want to continue to develop their life of faith. On the East Coast, this is our 4th annual core retreat, which is for working professionals. So it's held every spring, kind of a weekend, usually in Pennsylvania or in New York, and focuses on the slightly older demographic and the balance of faith and career and family. And this year, we had 2 representatives fly in from California, and they're going to learn and inherit from this model, and they're already planning a similar retreat for Labor Day weekend. So kind of sharing this model with different communities and adopting that for this young professional age. Also working with Kayla and youth ministry, last year we helped organize a junction service at BCSF to kind of bring this element of culture and faith to that really large gathering of youth and young adults that happens every year. Also encouraging and implementing this chaperone check-in for the youngers. So finding ways through the things that already exist to partner and support, kind of creating this culture and really, empowering and infusing that. So on our website, there's a tab for events. And so this is where we're kind of collecting and compiling all the different events nationally, sub-regionally, that youth and young adults can get connected to. And, sometimes they have people reaching out like, hey, is there anything going on near where I'm going to school? And so this is something we hope to develop even further, to really share the opportunities that exist for our young adults to plug in and to get connected. Also, there's a partnership with the SCF GPA Alumni Association, which was the work I was doing before starting this. And there's around 40 to 50 graduates every year, and they transition off of 1 or 2 or 3 years on the program and go back to their communities and to college. And we've often experienced that the first year home is the hardest transition. And so we started what we call mentoring rotation, where we pair a recent graduate with an alumni, so someone usually 4 or 5 years out of the program. And for around 10 to 15 weeks, they have a weekly check-in call and share about different topics of faith. And so far, we've had around 200 young adults go through this. And it's really benefited the people who are graduating, but it's also really benefited those who graduated many, many years ago. You know, as an older brother or sister, to have a call where you're talking with someone younger about your prayer life, or, you know, when's the last time you read Hundaké, or like, what's the value of reflecting, has also been really beneficial to the elder brothers and sisters. And so that's something Sujin and Carrie from Chicago have taken on as a project, doing an annual reunion and developing that as a resource for a specific niche of our young adult ministry. So right now, I think I got most of them. All the blue dots are the current active young adult ministries, and this, I just updated it. So in the last few months, we've added like 5 new young adult ministries getting started, and all are at various stages of development and all that kind of stuff. But it's really awesome to see these different people stepping up to take ownership and to create something in their community. And I just wanted to touch briefly on the fact that young adult ministry looks really different in every community. And depending on the size, depending on who's leading it, depending on the interest of the person that's leading it, it can be anything from Trinities, which, for example, the Chicago community uses. New York, Tarrytown area has recently adopted, and where 3 people commit to meeting on a regular basis with a specific purpose and intention, whether it's studying something, reading something together, supporting each other in specific goals for a certain period of time. That's been a really successful model in terms of really empowering ownership within the young adult community, rather than it just being dependent on one person to lead and facilitate. Some communities, their main young adult ministry activity is DP study groups, which they do among the second generation, or sometimes also together with first generation, or Hundaké study groups. Some communities have a youth service where once a month their youth work together to plan and present a Sunday service. For some, there's a smaller couples ministry. I know Bay Area does intergenerational events where they have what's called family room. And again, someone shares a testimony and there's a discussion, but it's intergenerational. So the Beckers have opened up their home for that. Some young adult ministries are primarily social events and board games and a chance just to connect as a community. And even though many young adult ministries start off that way, there's always the question then, how do we go deeper, right? On the foundation of these relationships, what's the next step to go deeper? Some communities have a young adult minister that's paid, and that's their like part-time or full-time role. Some are all volunteers. Some communities have an advisor role, the parental figure that helps and supports those who are stepping up to take on their leadership role. So in our sub-regional meetings, we'll share a little bit more about each specific community and the models that they use. So just to kind of wrap up and give a little picture. So right now, I'm helping to kind of direct young adult ministry. And team-wise, we have the 5 awesome Block YAM reps we'll be working with. We recently hired Michael Holmes as our media and marketing person. So he's helping all our different departments with any website, graphic, kind of database things, which has been a huge help. And then part of a little sub-team there is Carrie and Sujin with the Alumni Association. And then one role just got some budget affirmed to support is hiring a program assistant. So that's a role that I'm fleshing out and will be looking for, with the goal of finding one by the end of next month. So the goals for this next year, at our last YAM retreat in January, we kind of brainstormed on what we'd been working on so far this last year and what resources from our national team were most helpful and which they'd like to see more of. So I've kind of broken it down into 6 areas, and this shifted a little bit once we found out about the sub-regional reps. And I think it will continue to, to flesh out a little bit, but communication channels, so improving how nationally we share the resources that are available, and also how we get a better sense of what's happening on the ground and what resources are needed. The YAM retreats, right now we've been doing them twice a year, both at the beginning of the spring semester and at the fall semester. So wanting to continue that is a really valuable way of connecting to this bigger vision and building this sense of identity. Discussion series, so what I was sharing earlier, wanting to develop more of that. And regional retreats. So right now, things have sort of happened organically or supporting efforts that do exist, but I hope that our role on our national team can be to support and empower more regional retreats to happen. The YAM reps at the last retreat really wanted to see that, whether it's Divine Principle or UT or blessing workshops or workshops, with the whole sub-region coming together. And then community tour, I don't think it'll be as extensive as it has been in the past, because it takes like 3 months of a lot of time to visit every community, but I still really see and value that personal on the ground time and connection. And then the last area that has been coming up a lot recently and that I really am excited to develop and support is ministry support for the young adult pastors or reps. A lot of them, just spent the last 3 weeks calling each of them and just getting a sense of what has been going on and how they're doing. And one common thread that I've seen across the different communities is really the need to connect more with a pastor or with a parental figure, and how to really mentor and advise and raise up and support those who are stepping up to leadership roles. So that's what we've been working on this last year. It's kind of crazy to think of all that's happened in 1 year, but it's been really exciting, and I am looking forward to this expanded team of 5 to 15 new people as part of what we're developing and doing moving forward. So that's what I wanted to share. Any questions or further need for clarification? Anything I missed now, Kimi?
Well, thank you, Tasna, for sharing all that you did and also for doing it. So I did want to just frame a couple of things. One is that due to the sub-region system that has been initiated by True Mother herself, and our role being to support that, there are definitely intentions from our headquarters team to kind of support. But one major shift is before we were kind of trying to direct from headquarters for the whole nation. But with the advent of the 5 sub-regions, our role is going to shift more towards a supportive role to support each of the sub-regions to fulfill their kind of goals. And so Tasna shared, everything she's been working on, and definitely these are based off of field work and responses from those who are working in the field. But I think we're really in a position to support each YAM or each sub-region in developing and fulfilling their youth-related goals or youth leadership development goals. So that's just one kind of framing that I want to clarify. Yeah. Yeah. There was one other point, but I'll come back. So yeah, I think we can open it up to questions from anyone. Questions or comments?
No, Kimmy?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Jungsu. Hi. I have
Hi.
a question. This is Zoom, I mean, 8 to 9 is this is Zoom conference call is for young adult, basically, right? We focus on.
Yes.
So I know that you're top head person in whole this ministry. That's why I'm asking you. Are you, I mean, willing to have a separated conference call or Zoom call with like a CARP and GPA? I saw the like 5 different categories.
Yes.
So that means like, you know, youth and children ministry too, all different area. Are you going to have the different conference call?
Yes. Kayla, you want to explain that?
Yeah, Jungsuk, I invited you. Oh, sorry, my internet froze for a second. I invited you to those other calls too. You should have gotten the email with it. But there are the 5 calls that covers all the ministries that now Kimi is currently overseeing right now.
Right. Uh-huh.
So the
So
next one's at 9 o'clock, right after this, that focuses on youth ministry and children's ministry.
Yeah, I understand that. The one reason is actually the young adult ministry. The head is the Adalia in our region, but a little bit, Shana. We when we discussed about the last night, a little bit. Adalia, are you there, Adalia?
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm here. I'm here.
yeah, is the seems like Adalia understood is the like a coordinator for all 5.
Yeah,
fields.
that's what we're doing. That's
Yeah,
my role.
yeah,
But
that's why a little bit.
I do the local young adult ministry, but that's
Uh-huh.
separate from this.
Yeah, maybe we need to discuss about that
No,
with the head and
I was hired, I guess, by Kayla to be the sub-region leader. So this is yeah, it's for all 5 ministries. So
yeah, I think maybe we can do now. Kimi, I mentioned on a text that maybe we can help to clarify this a little bit. It's okay, like, you know, in my community, I do many young adult ministry activities, even though I'm the National Youth Ministry Coordinator. So it's okay, you know, for people to be doing different areas locally.
I think this is great now that I've seen. I didn't even know all the resources we had for young adult ministry. So I mean, I think this is the biggest issue is communication, right? So that's what our role is as representatives, is to connect everybody back to the resources. And there's so many things here that I would like now I would love to use, because now I know they exist. Which is just because, you know, we're all busy. We don't always know what's available. So I think this is a great platform for that.
And that was the main intention of these calls, is to inform the YAM representatives as well as the sub-regional leaders of the existing resources that we have. And especially since a lot of this has been only recently developed. As Tasna mentioned, it's just 1 year ago that we started the whole young adult ministry. Yeah, and again, all of us wear many hats. I gave a little talk at the KA church to high school students about, you know, siblings realm apart today. So there's different ways that we fulfill our roles. But I did want to say one more thing about young adult ministry, why it's really important. I feel like young adult ministry is kind of a central place because all the other ministries, the staff that lead those ministries are all young adults, or tend to be. And so it's really important to have a strong and healthy young adult ministry to also support all the staff that are also working in youth ministry and CARP and you know, GP alumni and all those kind of things. So it is a very kind of important and central ministry to strengthen. Okay, other questions or comments about young adult ministry or anything else?
I have a question. Tasna mentioned, you know, the parental figures or the parental roles, and I know in the past you've mentioned that. Is the goal to have like each like group have a parental figure? Like, for example, if we have like a couples ministry or, like study groups, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like separately, like a parental figure for each thing, or?
Mm-hmm. Good question. I think that's something that really comes down to community by community. In for example, the Bay Area, like Kazuya Morita is like the youth and young adult person, right? It's his like full-time role, and he oversees youth ministry, CARP, young adult ministry. Like that's his role, right? But then, for example, in Chicago, Nadia Kamiyama is the young adult ministry parental figure, and she just focuses on young adult ministry. So I think it really depends on each community, and maybe to each YAM rep in a subregion to find a parental figure. Anyway, so it really depends, I think, on each community.
Okay.
What do you think, Kayla? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's something we're figuring out. And again, it depends on the community. Like in my community, I'm pushing for one parent to oversee all these ministries. So I think it just depends on what works best.
Right. Because the benefit of one parent is also that there's like a fluidity between all the different ministries, right? Or there's someone who can help to facilitate the collaboration between youth ministry, young adult ministry, CARB, YSP, all these different things that are happening, instead of it continuing to remain a little bit disjointed and disconnected, especially since oftentimes we find that the youth who are leading these different ministries, they have full plates. They're just like focusing on making what they're doing really good. So having a parental figure who can help them see the bigger picture as you're investing into these youth kids, you're preparing them to help support young adult ministry or be a part of that, or you're preparing them to, go on to CARP. It helps kind of see that bigger picture. That's sort of the benefit of having one parental figure that can oversee that in a community. And they also tend to be, a little bit more stable maybe, and can be in that role longer than just the year or two that maybe someone volunteers for a ministry position.
And for our church community in particular, our young adult minister is in the process of stepping down and finding someone that's younger, just because of there's the age gap is growing. So I was, is a parental figure a first.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Necessarily, or
okay.
Okay.
She asked if the parental rep is a first.
So my question. Yeah. Like, what is the qualification for parental? Because there's some second, gen.
I think we haven't clarified that, but I think if somebody's over 40, that like puts them in a different age category. Like those of us who have little kids, we're parents, but we're not parents of teenagers. Like we don't know what that's like. So I think the point is having somebody who has a different perspective, a longer perspective, and more life experience that can advise younger people. But I don't think we have an age category quite yet, right, Tasna?
No, not yet. We're just like in this last retreat that we had, that was one of the big takeaways, was realizing the importance and the need for this role. And and so that's something we're still exploring and developing too.
And then should we, so sorry, I kind of missed part of that, but should we be looking for those people? Because as of now, there's no one really available for that kind of support.
I mean, so are you saying specifically for your community or for your subregion?
Yeah, starting with my community.
Yeah. I mean, I think, beginning to find that person, and just even putting the intention out there and beginning to brainstorm as a community what or who or what role you might want them to fill. Again, I know, for example, with Reverend Rendell and his community, that was a need that the young adults felt they needed. They needed a parental figure. They didn't want someone to be like teaching them and instructing them and leading everything, but they wanted someone who could be kind of a guide and a sounding board and a parent to the ministry they were developing. But they also felt like they wanted to, compensate that person and not just ask them to volunteer. So they came up with a plan and brought a proposal to their church community and found a way to make that role work. And they had someone specific in mind, and they asked, and they figured out an arrangement that would work for that family. So I think that would be a good suggestion, beginning to think about ideally who would you want? Like if you had your top pick, who would that person be? And then exploring ways to make that role work for that person. And yeah.
And also at this last retreat, the new thing that happened for us is we had parental figures there. I think we had like 6 or 7, and it totally changed the dynamic and the experience. And so our hope is with this upcoming retreat in the summertime that we can really invite more parental figures and create this strong network and identity behind parent figures supporting these YAM ministries.
Where is that going to be, by the way? Just
It's
getting excited about it.
gonna be on the East Coast. The particular weekend we've picked is a very, very busy summer weekend. We've called a lot of places, and we are maybe almost finding our spot.
Okay. There's some really neat places in like middle of Oregon, by the way, if you ever need a retreat place.
Okay.
No, I'm serious. I mean, it's still like, if you ever like need a place.
Yes, I will let you know. We'll call you. Get a list. Should we also mention on this call about the retreat with the sub-regional reps?
Sure, if you want.
Okay. So one reflection that our teams had is that this upcoming YAM retreat, right, which is happening in August, our vision, we've been doing them twice a year, but our vision is to move to one large national retreat once a year in August, where the whole country and the reps come together. And then the one that we've been doing in January becomes more of a sub-region YAM retreat, so you can focus more specifically on your sub-region. So knowing that this August one will be the annual one, maybe where all the reps come from around the country, we felt that it would be really beneficial not just to have the YAM reps come, but to have the sub-regional leaders also come, especially as your roles are new, and we felt like this would be a really great chance to connect and make some FaceTime with the youth leaders in your specific sub-region, and also to again get a sense of what our YAM ministry is about. But then we'll also have opportunities throughout that weekend to meet specifically as a sub-region with your YAM rep. So that would be really great a great opportunity. So just something we've been recently discussing. And our dates are tentative, August 16th to the 19th. It'll be somewhere on the East Coast. But if you could pencil that weekend in, we would really appreciate it. And feel be a really great opportunity to connect together with the youth in your sub-region and to build that relationship.
And to learn what it might take to host one in your own sub-region.
Yes.
6 months later.
Any other questions?
Just real quick about that retreat. So is that something that, and I hate to talk about money, I really do, but is that something that we're going to be sponsored to go, or should I start like telling Ryan to save up?
No, that's something that you would be sponsored to go to. Typically, we've covered the workshop cost of 3 to 4 people per community. This year it's going to be 5.
It was 5, yeah, okay.
Yeah, this year it's 5. So this year we're sponsoring the retreat cost for 5 representatives from your community. So ideally 1 representative from every ministry. And then generally the local community covers transportation costs.
Okay. Cool.
Any other questions, ponderings, suggestions, ideas? Okay.
I would like to hear at least a comment from each of the YAM reps.
I have one real small question.
Mm-hmm.
So Tasna, what age range do you consider young adult?
So technically, young adult ministry covers 18 to 40, which is a very big range. I would say that primarily what we've been focusing on to start has been more of the college, young 20s, maybe later 20s demographic. In general, that's the age that I've seen be more engaged in young adult ministry activities. Across the board, most of the people who lead young adult ministry in a community are in their early 20s themselves. And only a handful of communities are led by older young adults. So that's typically the age group that's been engaged. We hope and definitely want to see ways of developing more resources and opportunities for the older demographic. And I think it becomes less about age and more about life stage too, whether you're single, whether you're married with kids. Yeah.
Has anybody ever talked about having like a young family ministry?
Yeah, so that's kind of where it also begins to overlap with BFM a little bit.
Okay.
But I
forgot
definitely,
about them.
but I definitely see this as like slowly developing as we develop our team. We can have people that are focusing more specifically on different aspects of the young adult spectrum, right? And maybe, yes, there's overlap with BFM, but I think it would be really great to have a young adult, like you said, young families person that's kind of helping to empower and support that demographic in each of these different sub-regions, right? Or if you have something that focuses a little bit more on the young professional spectrum or the parenting aspect so I think that's something that can only continue to develop moving forward.
And also the emergence of a children's ministry, I think also caters a lot to the young families ministry.
Yeah.
Honestly, about that, think that there is a disconnect between the BFM and my community. We have so many young families that it's just like that is our ministry really, like other than young kids. So I think there's a huge niche for that in a lot of up and coming communities with young families. I just personally think that it doesn't get related like the older couples in the community, like they're usually more involved with that. So I'm just saying, like, I think there's a real maybe just creating like a bridge between the young and the old. Or
Yeah. I also would love in our community as well, it's all like second gen couples with young kids. That's what makes up. And then there's like 2 or 3 young adult single or, just matched or whatever. But I feel like we put so much effort into just everyday life as parents that our cups are not being full or filled. So then like it makes it harder to like figure out how to help the children. So there should be like a young parent or a parent organization or something where like we could get our spiritual needs taken care of so that we can help the younger ones. I think that's why a lot of the young minister or the young adult ministers are like in their early 20s, because they're like all full of life and they don't have kids and responsibilities. And life is just grand. And then you get older and it's like, wow, all right.
Yep. Yeah.
Saying it like it is. So Kayla has been really excited about supporting the children's ministry, because I think although we're starting with curricula and Sunday school programming, we are exploring like how to make it easier for even stay-at-home moms to be able to apply the content and different things like that. So I do feel like there's a lot of potential in strengthening
that's
that.
exciting. I'm so excited about our curriculum. It might be the teacher in me, but I'm so excited. I also thought, oh my gosh, what about like a parent retreat? Wouldn't that be so fun? Like we all go to the Bahamas or something.
Without the kids, or?
I mean, not literally. We get our, we get filled really easily that way.
I'm totally
One
down.
day.
So we got about 8 minutes before the next call.
I like to say something. I feel like, so we talked about the younger age group and the young adults. I feel like the older generation is actually what we need to focus on more so, because I mean, oftentimes me and Rioni are the oldest people at any young adult thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like even at that point, there's not that many people are in our age group. And we're the ones that are usually putting things together, which is great. But it's definitely a lot of people that are just not there anymore. So I think reaching out to that generation is really important because they haven't been taken care of in any way. And now that I'm a mom, I had just started a moms group with about 8 other moms in our Northern Virginia area. And some of those people I didn't even know. So it's kind of nice to be able to reconnect with other people that are closer to my age, but also maybe don't feel connected to the church also. I think that's a whole part of young adult ministry that needs to be, it's definitely a need.
Right.
Well,
Well,
a lot of communities, yeah.
No, great point. I mean, and that's something that I know I'm really excited about having this, like, the 5 YAM reps, and like even why we intentionally reached out to people who were a little bit older, right? And like parents themselves. And I think engaging and connecting and even us working together can be a really great, I hope and envision, catalyst for addressing the needs of that older young adult demographic and working together to explore ways to do that. So I think, that's definitely a next step that, we're asking, how do we kind of shift into that? And I know I'm really excited to have a team of awesome people to brainstorm how to do that.
Yeah. And like Kaylee started just a couple of weeks ago, we did this like spiritual kind of Sunday service on Saturday evening. And I felt like that was a really cool idea because it was only a few people, but it was like a fun kind of way to reach out more on a spiritual aspect, because so many of the young adult things are usually social based and not spiritual based. So reaching out in that kind of way is good too. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
How do you do all of that, Kayla? My goodness. You're just gonna like pop that baby out, then work the next day? Hopefully not.
Hopefully not, right? I have a lot of support and God really blesses me. I'll say that.
And she's a super mom. So how about Isaac? A word? Unless you're not available.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, hi, Isaac.
Hello. Just anything? Okay, well, one thing I noticed was that on the map it said that Dallas wasn't the active YAM community. But, well, maybe you made that from when you visit.
Yeah, that was a mistake. I caught that too as I was looking. I was like, oh no, Isaac's going to call me out on that.
But yeah, I mean, it's been pretty recent that they've kind of revived the young adult ministry here, and it's been good that they've been consistent. They have 2 events every month. But yeah, we're definitely still learning and I guess struggling and getting the attendance higher, especially as other people were saying with the older group and the you know, the younger, both those two groups have trouble coming and feeling like it's a place for them. So that's something they're still, you know, always trying to figure out and work on. But yeah, I was also really happy to see. I didn't know about, I guess, that website on Family, or the tab on Family Fed that has all those resources and the events. I think that's really great, and I want to let my people here know that that's there. So thank you.
Awesome.
Yep. So it's yam.familyfed.org. So yam.familyfed.org. I wanted to ask Dan, but looks like he stepped out. So I don't know, maybe Milhan,
Sure.
comment.
Yeah. Well, first, I'm just inspired by this team. I mean, I never saw so much organization around young adult ministry before, and it seems very cooperative. And I know Kaylee and Tasni did a lot of work to get to this point, and we're still working on it. And Kim, of course, you too. We're trying to figure things out in our subregion. I was able to get Dan on the phone yesterday and invite him to this call yesterday. So I'm glad he came on, and now we can maybe talk a little bit more about what's possible. So, yep. Thanks for organizing all of this. Very hopeful.
All right. Thanks, Milhan. So Tasna or Kaylee, any closing words before the next call starts in 2 minutes?
The next call is my call, so that's Tasna's closing word.
Oh, okay.
No, thank you. Yeah, thank you all for joining, and I'm really excited and looking forward to getting to know all of you better and working together. And yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for where we can go, and each person really will contribute to shaping and molding and moving young adult ministry forward. And so welcome any ideas and suggestions. Like, again, you know, each of us has one perspective or one lens through which we're seeing this. So any thoughts, ideas, totally feel free to connect and share about them. And I'm excited to support each of your subregions best that I can.
All right. Thank you, Tasna.
Mm-hmm.
Before you go, I did want to give Reverend Rendell a chance to pitch an idea because I know that we've been struggling to find a place on the East Coast. So, Reverend Rendell, you have an idea?
No, my only comment was don't forget the Midwest. It's the center of the country. And I appreciate the West Coast sisters' concern about cost. The cheapest place to go is the Midwest. Just remember that from now on.
So
Thanks.
we called a bunch of places and none of them were available. So maybe we can connect with you to see if you have any specific venues that you know of that are within airport distance, easy airport distance.
Also Midwest area.
We've got Christelle now. She is the venue queen.
Oh, really? Okay, Christelle, I will send you a message right now.
Okay. We'll see what we can do to accommodate you guys.